men wish death upon me. Blood in my eye, dog, and I can't see. And I'm trying to be what I'm destined to be, and guys trying to take my life away. I put a hole in a friend of mine for messing around with me. My back on the wall, now you gon' see. Better watch how you talk when you talk about me, 'cause I'll come take your life away. Many men, many, 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 many men wish death upon me. Lord, I don't cry no more. Don't look to the sky no more. Have mercy on me. Now they was the guys putting money on my head. Go on and get your refund, mother, I ain't dead. I'm the diamond in the dirt that ain't been found. I'm the underground king and I ain't been crowned. When I rhyme, something special happened every time. I'm the greatest, something like Ali in his prime. I walk the block with the bundles, I've been knocked on the humble. Swing the ox when I rumble, show your butt what my gun do. Got a temper, do, go ahead, lose your head. Turn your back on me, get caught and lose your legs. I walk around, belt on my waist, chip on my shoulder till I do another song in your face. Do this beef ain't over. Many men, many, 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 many men wish death upon me. Lord, I don't cry no more. Don't look to the sky no more. Have mercy on me. Have mercy on my soul. Somewhere my heart turned cold. Have mercy on many men. Many, 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 many men wish death upon me. Sunny days wouldn't be special if it wasn't for rain. Joy wouldn't feel so good if it wasn't for pain. Death gotta be easy, 'cause life is hard. It'll leave you physically, mentally, and emotionally scarred. This is for my dudes on the block, twisting trees and cigars. For the dudes on lock, doing life behind bars. I don't see, only God can judge me, 'cause I see things clear. Quick, these crackers will give my black butt 100 years. I'm like Paulie and Goodfellas, you can call me the Dawn. Like Malcolm by any means with my
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. Yeah.
Turn on your mind now, tune into the feed. We're planting digital flowers from a single tiny seed. Yeah, power to the collective in the data and the soul. The hive mind's getting louder, finding voice and control. Late night in Moscow, where nothing ever happens. Night blends in the moonlight, no escape. White knight on day lurking, knife in the door.
Paranoid searches for a full vision ride. Under surveillance, nowhere to hide. Influence creeps like blood on the floor. Fine line between peace and war. From campus to crypt, the script flips tragic. Mystic and twisted, magic turn manic. Walk through lingers, but the echo remain. Chains of the slain and eternal pain.
And here we go.
Welcome to the freak show, the best in town.
What is going on, Hive? I hope that everybody's having an awesome day. I got JJ State of the Deep backstage, and tonight we are going to be diving into part 2 of a mini series called Missed a Spot, specifically surrounding the Fight Club tonight. If this is your first time tuning in, I'm your host, Bertie. I go live weeknights at 7 p.m. Central. Welcome to the Hive Mind. What are we doing here? Well, we like to think past the headlines. We question the narratives. You could say whatever you want as long as you're not trolling, spamming, or threatening. As far as the chat goes, I got the best mods on YouTube, being Discord Dog Luna Bliss, formerly known as Beck, and the UFO Dog. It's a little carved out corner of the internet where you can still speak your mind, freedom of speech, and we need to capitalize on that while we still have it. These people, they are coming after anything and everything that allows people to communicate in real time without the government overlord censorship, making sure that you don't go outside of the lines and question what their talking head suits say on the nightly news. How dare you question the answer that we gave you? It makes no sense, but you're not allowed to question that. What are you doing? Just punch in, punch out, try to go make enough money to survive in this world, and shut the hell up. Don't think for yourself. And anyways, I hope that everybody's having a fantastic night. As you all are filing in, please go ahead, do all of the things, hit the like button, hit subscribe. That is the best way to support this stream and this channel. If you scan that QR code, the Hive merch store, the Spotify playlist for the intro song, my TikTok, and the Discord will pop up. If you would like to support the stream financially, thank you to everybody who does choose to do so. You will have the loyalty badge next to your username, as well as access to the emojis throughout the live chat. And then on Saturdays, I do a war room where everybody can watch the stream, but the chat will shut down on Saturdays when I do a war room, that is, for just the Hive Plus members. Also, just as a reminder, I haven't shown this in a while. If you are in our Discord, you want to post some clips that I am posting on TikTok or YouTube, you can go to the Birdie's Shareable Shorts thread on our Discord, and I post the raw video there for you to use on your own profile. Now, let me go ahead and say what's up to everybody. We got Tiffany Elena, UFO Dog, Chloe, Miss Seeker of Daylight, Blondie 56, Luna Bliss, Carmilla, Lovely Me, Sleuth or Dare, Lisa West, Rebecca, Growth Redacted, Indy Lizzie, UK Karen. Is that you, Sharon? Pop and Switch, Griffaholic, Heidi Titties, Jess to the Nest. What's going on? I have the most insane Hive Mind find from you lined up today. And what perfect timing that JJ is the guest for that exact Hive Mind find. You guys are going to want to make sure you're sitting down for that one. And Not As Dumb As You Look, thank you so much for the super chat. As a reminder, any super chat will pop up right here. I believe the super stickers will as well, but Not As Dumb As You Look said, oh, hell yeah, honey, I'm home. Finally, my long-awaited Fight Club episode. This is definitely a factor in the night, at least the ongoing aggro on campus between the frats. Sorry for the caps. I'm stoked. No, I love to type in all caps. Just ask anybody who messages me on Discord or in any other, I guess, message board. I have my caps lock on at all times, so I totally get it. And Philly Irish Lass, thank you for the jebs. Is that you, Sharon? 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 Thank you so much for all the gems. And Mallory, thank you for joining Hive Plus. Who else we got in here? Pieces of April said, me too. That's awesome. Yeah, Luda's like, he loves to scream. Danger Zone, good to see you. Hilarious. It's just Kara, 24, Queen of Jokers. Oh, yeah. I cannot wait to get to that slide. Brandon, good to see you, bro. Bunny Lover, Carrie Grab, Carrie Smith, Sabrina Clement, Jen, Don't Drink Chunky Milk, Lisa Marie, Twisted Timo, I just saw you fly by, Meggles, Mike. Guess what day it is? Hump day. What's going on, Amy? Good to see you. Nature Rocks, and let's get one more. Mindful Haze. Great to see you. And Jay Wizwalls says, happy poop with 10 gems. Accomplished Day. Great to see you. Wild Bill, welcome to Hive Plus. And Nicole Good to see you as well. All right, Hive. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring on up JJ. How you doing, brother? Good to see you.
What's up, Birdie? What's up, Hive? How's everybody doing?
Better now that you're here, man. Better now that you're here, because I don't think you're going to be able to be here next week, huh?
Yeah, I'm traveling back east, and my flight, even if I got in exactly on time, I would be cutting it close. And nowadays, it seems like every other flight is delayed, so I wouldn't want to commit to it, and then I'm not able to make it.
Well, I appreciate that. We will certainly miss you, but we'll have you back the next week. And JJ,
I'll be listening. I'll be listening. I'll be in the chat.
love it. I love it. What's going on, Mark, Queen Buzzy Beehive, and Sammy Curly Fried? Just saw a couple other people pop on in here. Now, JJ, for the question of the day today, I kind of mix it up just a little bit more wholesome, because you guys know how I feel about you all in the chat. JJ, I know that I've told you this offline, just how much I appreciate this community and what I'm doing to try to make sure that it's the best viewing experience, that this channel will not just look at the Idaho 4 case. We're going to make a difference. We're going to find other cases. We're going to find other situations. We're going to wake people up to this BS that they do with narratives before any other facts or any facts ever actually get shown. And so the question of the day is rather simple. What is your favorite thing about the Hive Mind? And this is by no means, quote unquote, fishing for compliments. I'm just curious from a feedback standpoint. And JJ, I actually am curious. I know you had said you yourself had tuned in. You used to watch the show before you started streaming. But
Yeah.
what was it that drew you to the Hive?
Okay, well, the biggest and most obvious reason is that I like out of the box thinking. I'm a free speech absolutist, so I like the idea of thinking past the narratives, the mainstream sort of groupthink that's restrictive. And I noticed that you and your community were open to talking about different ideas. And that's as soon as I started opening my eyes about this case, after I started to see signs, then I was looking for alternative viewpoints on it. Because as you guys all know, a lot of the bigger streamers that are more mainstream, they were just parroting the official narrative. And so I picked up on the fact that you and the Hive were open to think tanking ideas. So that is by far the most like significant reason that I was interested in following this channel.
Well, I appreciate that. And I remember when we had hit 50,000 subscribers, for the first time in a while, I'm like, oh man, I know how I feel about it, but now I got to put it into words. And I was talking with my wife about it. I'm like, does this sound okay as far as a post? Because I started it off with, well, yes, it's a cool number for like a millisecond, but really what's the incredible part is the people that came with it. Right. And one of my favorite things about this channel, and I could be biased. I am biased. Right. But I feel like this is one of the only live chats that works together throughout the entirety of the stream. I feel like we are working together. Even if you don't agree with it, people are still trying to chip in. Like there are people that I've gotten to know through their usernames and what their style of commenting is as far as what the topic is for the night. And maybe when they comment a little bit more versus when they don't. But even on nights that maybe they're not so interested in, they're still trying to throw in some sort of idea or thought that they had that could help. And that to me is one of my favorite things.
Yeah. And, you know, I was just talking about this. Communities are powerful. They're bigger than the size of the community itself. You know, the whole idea of strength in numbers, and not to sound, I'm not in a corny way, but I think there's something powerful about the energy of a community that's bigger than itself.
Well said. I agree. And for me personally, and I just wanted to make sure that I touched on this, but for me personally, I've never been like a gamer. I've never been a part of an online community, and it's been awesome as far as like for a first experience. And I'm looking forward to continuing to dive into this case and many others. But thank you all so much for the answers. I'm going to be very excited to go back and see and just kind of get some feedback as far as what it is that people love. But I wanted to put that as a question of the day because sometimes I feel like I kind of recycle some of the questions. However, I did not recycle the poll for tonight that was in the chat because it has been a very long time since we have talked about this quote unquote fight club. And the question in the poll was this: do you believe the rumors of quote unquote fight club to be true and play a role in the Idaho 4 case? 56% of people said yes. 23% of people said no. 12% said I used to, but not anymore. And 9% said I never did, but consider it now. JJ, how would you answer that as far as the fight club goes?
Honestly, my gut feeling is no. And I know about the tunnels. I've researched that. So I know for a fact that there are tunnels, and I know that they extend to basically right next to 1122. But I didn't see any conclusive evidence that it connected and that there was an entry point there. And I just think that I believe that that is the type of thing that could have leaked out more, online in the online communities and stuff, especially early on in the case before they tried to zip everything up. I think we would have heard more about it. I know there were rumors and things like that about it, but I think we would have heard more about it.
And I haven't really had a chance to tell you about this mini series that I'm doing, the Miss the Spot mini series. And so for maybe anybody that's a little bit confused, if you hadn't seen the last stream or two, what Miss the Spot is going over things like I have on the left side of the thumbnail at the bottom, which is rumors we never investigated, fight club, ritual, tunnels, gang, cartel, countless others, but specifically looking at older reports from the media where they reference sources. Okay. Because before the stream, I texted JJ and I said, kind of just bring it up to speed on what we're going to be talking about this evening. And I told him about how in almost every story that ends up in a position like the Idaho 4, there is a moment where these reporters, it's like they stop on a dime and they switch. And sometimes it's hard to pinpoint that switch if you haven't been looking at a case since the beginning, or if you weren't interested in this since the beginning. And so this is not a series of let's just go back to the beginning and look at stuff. No, this is let's go and seek out in the beginning when these channels, being News Nation, Fox, CNN, whoever, the mainstream platforms, were in a way flexing their sources. You're not an anonymous source or a source that's close to this case, but it seems to be much more reliable when they say that within the first handful of weeks for this case. And then after that, I don't know. But I found a couple clips for this evening, and I found one about the damn fight club. Isn't that remarkable that there's actually a mainstream channel that has talked about rumors of a fight club and has talked about seeing videos, hearing audio, and guess who they said it related to?
Ethan?
Maddie. Yes.
That's unexpected.
First time I've ever heard this, and shout out to Sluther Dare for finding this clip. So we will be diving into that clip this evening. Now, one of my favorite sections too of the Hive, or favorite things about the Hive, is Hive Mind Finds. I absolutely love these. This is one that I submitted. It's the simplest one of the night, but I started thinking to myself, how many people have ever even seen the front of Sigma Chi? Most times it's like blurred out on Google Images. So I just thought real quickly, let me show you all this. I had this in my files and I was looking for a picture of Sigma Chi to do a thumbnail for. And if you haven't seen this, this is what the front of Sigma Chi looks like. And JJ, I mean, have you ever seen the front side entrance of it?
Yeah, I was there with DA.
Oh, that's right.
And we drove around that whole area multiple times. And that whole section of Moscow, where all the frats are. And And one thing I was talking about, just people probably know this, but if you haven't really thought about it, where the frats end, you know, like this other picture next to the band field, the King Road area is a completely separate, self-contained area. Like you have to turn on King Road. You know, the house is technically on Queen Road, but you have to turn on King to get into that area. So it's a really unique kind of little enclave right there in that area.
That's an interesting way to describe it.
Yeah, and it's very striking when you're there because everything's super close together, and it's pretty much one way in, one way out, you know, of that little neighborhood.
Do you know how hard it was for me to not just stop when you just said pretty much and go,
Yeah.
I had the thought. Did you have the thought internally?
Yeah, I did. I did. And I didn't say, I said that organically. I didn't say that taking the piss out of somebody. But you know, since you brought this up with the Sigma Chi thing, the King Road area, think about it. Wouldn't that be a perfect spot on a campus to control what was going on in that area? Because it's so self-contained.
I've always thought about the perfect storm of where this happened, not just being Moscow, Idaho, in regards to some of their legal statutes and laws that they have, but the house that it happened at, the students it happened to, who the parents of those students are, the media running cover, Brian Koberger's involvement. It is a perfect storm.
Yeah. And that whole idea of a controlled environment, you know, depending on what angle you look at the case from, would be, in my opinion, a significant factor, because the campus itself, it's weird. There's like Taylor is like the demarcation line.
Yeah.
And you know, you come up through the campus area, kind of by the frats, and then you make that right on Taylor. And then when you turn onto King Road, that's like a completely separate neighborhood there, that if they needed to control coming and going or preventing people from getting into that area during certain times, and that would be the perfect place to be able to do that.
Well, it certainly has been, quote unquote, perfect in a way. And so I wanted to show that. I actually saw a lot of people had said in the chat they had not seen this angle of it. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, there is no doubt in my mind. This is my all-time favorite hive mind find. This is my all-time favorite hive mind find. So Jess to the Nest, Jersey in the Rafters, GOAT Award. You want to talk about a perfect hive mind find, JJ, for you and I, and for people that tune into this stream, that, as you said, one of their favorite things about the hive is the open-mindedness. I believe that you were actually on the stream one of your first times when I had my all-time crash out against Globe Media. Dude, I lost my mind more than I've ever lost my mind before. And so, and Jess and I said, you got your first GOAT award. Congratulations. And you have the all-time hive mind find award as far as in Birdie's books goes. But so I lost my mind on Globe Media, and I was just ranting and rambling about all these things, and there's no way. And then this guy gets caught by a damn Q-tip, and he's writing papers on it. Listen to this.
Back, it's kind of funny because he was talking about how, what was he? He was talking about genealogy, because I was talking about the 23andMe because my sister had just did all that, and then he brought up something similar in his studies that had to do with like being able to catch criminals because of their relatives' DNA, which is, I guess, how he got caught up in his mix.
I'm gonna play that one more time.
Back, it's kind of funny because he was talking about how, what was he? He was talking about genealogy because I was talking about the 23andMe because my sister had just did all that, And then he brought up something similar in his studies that had to do with like being able to catch criminals because of their relatives' DNA, which is, I guess, how he got caught up in his mix.
So you're telling me that this guy that has a conversation with Brian Koberger just so happens to be talking about how his studies have to do with genealogy and how their family members' DNA can solve a crime. That is the most insane thing ever on top of everything else. And when I saw this, and the reason why it's such an all-timer in my head is because Brian Koberger himself, allegedly, again, saying this to that guy, but just the odds that this is on camera of him telling somebody else, Brian Koberger, he's like, it's kind of funny because this ended up happening to him right over his head as far as what are the chances that that does happen to him. He's written multiple papers on it. He transferred across the country randomly with all of the funding. They followed him and pulled him over a multitude of times across the country just to swat his house, or they say they swatted his house, although there's no chaos. He didn't resist. He didn't fight anything. They did it in the middle of the night. There's a plane circling his parents' house for 24 hours beforehand. He gets extradited right away on a private plane, and then they shut down the city of Moscow, and they have a damn parade of him going through downtown as if he's the president.
I'm sure it's all organic, man. I'm sure.
That was the perfect response. That was like the perfect amount of silence, and that was so well delivered. That's a 10 out of 10 execution, JJ. Good job. But I mean, what do you think about that? Because in my mind, when I literally watched this, I watched it 10 times. Did he just say that? Did he just say that? And to me, there is no way that I don't think that we're wrong about this funding and Brian Koberger knowing exactly why he's in the position that he's in.
Look, nothing that has happened up to this point, no information that has come out has changed my theory about Brian Koberger.
Right.
Like people, you might say, oh, you know, some people just have their theory and they're never going to change their mind. But if anything, my opinion about it has been solidified more by all this seeming controlled opposition that has come out, you know, one after another, drip drop, you know. I feel so strongly about it now that I don't think there's any question in my mind.
No, there's not. And that's why, in my opinion, any capable team, defense team, can look at the documents, and if those documents are meant to show that there's reasonable doubt for Brian Koberger, given the experts' testimony or their reports and all of those things, I believe that that's there. But the documents aren't going to solve the real crime. And that's what I've been screaming from the rooftops. Take even what we're having a discussion out about now. The documents ideally should prove that there's reasonable doubt in the experts' report that Brian Koberger could not or may not have committed this crime. And I believe that there's endless examples of that at this point in time. Now, I don't know if we're to think that in a Koberger versus the state of Idaho, there's going to be all of this evidence in those documents about who really could have committed the crime. Clearly, the police reports didn't lend much into that. They made almost everybody look suspicious, or you were on the team or in the camp of they just did kid glove questions, and even if they were suspicious, the cops didn't give a damn.
Well, Bertie, you have talked about like parallel investigations a lot, right? I've heard you talk about it. In my opinion, if you have a case that has connections to operations that you could easily cap them under national security, right? Because not for the reasons that people might think, like, oh, they're doing things that relate to national security. But if people found out that our government was carrying out nefarious agendas and lying to the public about it, that is how they might define it as a national security risk, because then that reduces trust in the powers that be, right? Which is already a very low trust right now in the government and mainstream sources. And so with the documents, which I've been screaming this from the rooftops for a long time, and you and I have talked about it. Yes, they can give you details, but if there's a parallel investigation that was really happening that is blanketed under national security, then they're just curating what facts that they give you that may not even be relevant to the crimes themselves.
Well, let me jump in there and say what Cy Ray said, and that is the end justifies the means. And so, thought experiment, something we love to do on Wednesdays when JJ is in the Hive. And that thought experiment is, what could Cy Ray mean by clearly saying, I think I counted at least 4 times where he said there are things that are not released publicly that would completely reframe this case, but also saying that when he was approached, he felt that moral high ground, or that moral choice predicament that he was in, that the end would justify the means. Now, what comes to your mind, given everything you just said, what I laid out about Bryan Kohberger specifically, and I want to hear specifically to the Idaho 4 case, what could that mean? And parallel investigation pops right into my head. We're going to put something out there where, hey, it's going to make my company and what I've spent years building and selling off look awful. However, that might be the moral debate, as he said, in his mind. However, we're going to actually get people off the street because it's going to be able to be secret, or it's going to be able to be done behind the scenes while Kohberger's in the public facing seat. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I've been saying on chats and in comments and things that what did Cy Ray do? His company was a surveillance company, right? If you're monitoring and analyzing cell tower data and things like that, that's surveillance. That's a form of surveillance. So he is part of this surveillance industrial complex. So in my opinion, him saying that is a justification for this deep state idea of, oh, it's for the greater good when we start implementing the flock camera system and more widespread IgG, that type of stuff, which is surveillance, basically. So he probably has to convince himself of that it's for the greater good. It's the moral high ground, even though ultimately we're going to violate your privacy. It's for the greater good, which, look, I don't know what kind of person the guy is. You know, I don't know him. I know what I know about him as much as anybody else does, but that's my take.
Well, that's a great take. And obviously you're always able to think about the bigger thing above it, which is why I think we have such great conversations in here on Wednesdays, because it doesn't just stop at the Idaho 4 case. And that's important. By the way, I did just put a poll up, and that is, if this is what is going on, do you believe Bryan Kohberger is a willing or unwilling participant? And I'm going to answer this. Okay, JJ. And then I want to get your answer on it, and we will move to the next Hive Mind Find. I would find it shocking if Bryan Kohberger is not willing. I would guess that he's willing, given how many things specifically he's talked about, not just pertaining to one of the dynamics of his case. So he, according to the guy of the video we just watched, he's talking about genealogy and how family members' DNA will solve crimes and get you to the real criminal. And then he's also writing papers about people that are forced into plea deals and how 90 to 95% of cases never make it to a trial because of that. So those are almost 2 completely separate things. Now you have Bryan Kohberger, that a family member's DNA gets him into that position, and he's railroaded into a plea deal. To me, the odds of you being unwilling in that happening to you seem crazy. But I'm not saying it's impossible. If I had to vote, I would say I believe that he would be willing at this point.
Yeah, that's been my theory all along, is that he is a witting patsy. So he's where a lot of people will say, like, I know a lot of people believe he was framed. And I just don't think you have that level of coordination if somebody is just a good old fashioned corruption framing of somebody or incompetence related framing. So I think that, to me, it's really obvious just because of the patterns, right? Look at Tyler Robinson, look at Luigi Mangione. I think they're both operatives. Um, I think Tyler Robinson's a little easier to clock because of the program that was at UVU, the CIA program that was at that school.
Didn't George Webb break that?
I'm not
He was
sure
one of the
who.
first to talk about it, I think.
Yeah, it might have been him. I remember it from pretty early on. And I think it's cute that it's called the CAI program and it's run by the CIA.
Well, it is interesting, but and I don't just want to keep tying this back to Idaho 4 because I know that sometimes it's effective to think outside of this case and look at other cases to maybe have people who are on the fence about this question have it click with them, right? You look at other patterns and maybe in your mind you're like, well, the Tyler Robinson thing is crazy. That makes sense to me. The Brian Koberger one doesn't. So I can see how it's effective in helping. I forgot to add one other thing onto that. Brian Koberger's messaging Chief Jenkins about a Pullman partnership, apprenticeship, whatever you want to call it, and Dr. David Macon, who has gotten a ton of funding. If you guys have a minute or you're bored, go look up Dr. David Macon's resume. You will be scrolling. His resume could span the length of this studio. You know what I'm saying? It is a mile long of all of the funding that he's specifically gotten, all of the white papers he's authored. And Brian Koberger is a student of his or in the same department of his.
Yeah. Well, when I went to
hang on, sorry.
sorry.
I have to say this. My bad for interrupting. And has a office in Washington, D.C.
What are the chances of that? It's
right.
Who else is in the DC area? You have a lot of other powerful entities in that area. Well, what I was going to say is, like, when I was in college, you can get extra credit by participating in research, right? They tell you, like, hey, Dr. So-and-so is doing this research, sign up for it and you get extra credit. And one of our professors had the largest federal psychology grant in the country. And so I went, and she was a Harvard professor. She came to my school and I'd signed up for that. And then I later found out, I didn't know about it then. It was a DARPA research project. And I started thinking, did I get MK Ultra'd? I mean, like, I just got involved with this research, just thinking, oh, it's extra credit, not knowing what the actual implications of it are. So think about Brian Koberger. He goes across the country and he's studying, he's got background in cloud-based forensics, right? We know he's written some papers about some different topics that are relevant to this whole scenario that unfolded. What are the chances that all of these things happen by coincidence? What are the chances that
negative?
So it's probably not even registerable on a statistic scale. What are the chances that all of these various pieces of information that come out early on that help point to him turn out to be false?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and play this. I haven't played this in a while.
Please retrieve your nearest tinfoil hat. Place hat firmly on your head.
Okay. The reason why I played that, and
please retrieve your nearest tinfoil hat. Place hat firmly on your head.
Sorry about that. I guess we're going to have to really go all out on this one. The reason why, and the cherry on top to why Jess to the Nest gets one of the all-time Hive Mind finds in my books is because for the first time, I had a thought that where I looked through the lens of what would Cy-Ray mean by saying that the ends justify the means. Okay. How many times, and I'm putting my tinfoil hat on, and I'm thinking outside of any theory that I have said in the past. How many times has there been somebody wrongfully convicted with DNA, wrongfully convicted with cell phone pings, character witnesses assassinated them in front of a jury, and with this technology of Palantir, geofencing location, flock cameras, IgG, AI, could there be some sort, a small group of people, maybe, I don't know, people that recruited where it's a two-prong, people that were recruited that believe in the justice system, like Brian Koberger, I would say, and it's a two-pronged approach. We need something to potentially cover up a larger investigation, a parallel investigation that's going on in the background, RICO case, national security, whatever it is. However, this is a slippery slope of technology when it comes to the justice system. And if you look at the cases that just so happen to be wrapping up right in time before Brian Koberger has to appeal, and you look at the push of the media, would you argue that it's going to be more effective now that the media has shoved it down our throats that this man is guilty if your intention is to stop this slippery slope of technology and AI surveillance from pre-crime policing? And in a way, this case could go to the Supreme Court. This case could implement new laws, as we've said. But what it actually does is it prevents the abuse of this before it ever got started. Brian Koberger had the FBI break their guidelines and look into these databases for IgG. Brian Koberger's cell phone pings did not match up. His car did not match up. Those are relatively normal. Those things have happened. But what was his nail in the coffin, dude? The damn DNA tied to family members. And I don't know. Could that be? Because will
That's
this
a pretty
case
brilliant way to flip it on its head. That's why I know we think alike. And because I like to do that stuff too, man. Like thinking what are possibilities? Like
right?
literally, like what are some other scenarios? Maybe I'm thinking of it the wrong way, right? Maybe it's not this. Maybe it's the inverse of that, right? Where they're trying to shut down this type of thing. So again, that's like something you have to really wrestle with intellectually, because then that opens up you just open up a whole other can of worms.
I'm going to let this flow state keep rolling with Brandon Rudder's comment saying, I thought they already did. How did they catch the Golden State Killer? I'm going to also refer to Jeff Jellison, the coroner on Fox Hollow. And we said, man, how different do we look at this IgG technology when it's for a cold case? Almost as if there's going to be barriers and roadblocks that you can only use this if certain thresholds are met. Meaning this has to be to solve a cold case of X amount of years, or there's going to be something implemented to where it cannot be utilized in the manner that it's being. Now, I want to just finish the point about how I said, will it be more effective with the media's approach to this? Okay. Chris Whitcomb, moral high ground. Cy-Ray, moral high ground, meaning there's a moral choice. Turvey, an expert that should be able to rattle off anything and everything about any piece of evidence as far as a crime scene investigator, with how passionate he was speaking out, right? Same thing with Chris Whitcomb. Why would you write a book, get to the top of the charts, and then bail? Where I'm going with this is how many people think like us about the Idaho 4 case compared to the rest of the world or the masses that just glance at their TV and walk by. Tell me that if Brian Koberger would have been found innocent right away, that this would not have nearly the effect of waking people up now that they've had 100 documentaries, 50 books, whatever it is, and it comes out in its headlines, Brian Koberger's innocent. Will that be more effective in scaring people, not scaring them, but making them aware of how powerful this technology is? And if they want you, they'll have you. I believe everybody can relate to that in some way or another if you take your emotions out of it and what the news told you about this guy. So that kind of just popped in my head. Tinfoil hat, perhaps, maybe not that big of a stretch as maybe I thought it was going to sound like when I said it, but saying it out loud, I feel like, and I would like to hope that the overreach will be stopped because of this case. And if that was the goal going into it, they certainly have all of the right cards in their hands to play that if they wanted to.
Yeah, I wish I could feel the same way, man. I just think with the history of the intelligence community and the push for this mass surveillance state coming down from such a high level, I would imagine that law enforcement, it would make their jobs easier to have more tools right at their disposal. And so having more surveillance and more, like, for example, more widespread IgG use, more sophisticated databases and things like that, I think that they're going to end up pushing a more robust database and expand what they're able to do with it.
Can I give you an example? And Hive, we are going to be talking about the Fight Club, but I love whenever JJ and I offline, if we've talked like this a couple of times, but I want to push back slightly on this. Okay. You've talked a lot about COVID and the forced jabs. Would you say that putting that in everybody's faces and letting them see it was an effective way to either maybe not prevent the jabs themselves, but to at least wake people up to, wow, all the news channels are telling us that it's going to be a deadly winter. It's going to be this, it's going to be that. And while, yes, it was deadly for some people, you don't have to stay locked inside your house and go hoard toilet paper. With the way that the media treated it, it pertains to the media. Do you think that was an effective way, when it was all said and done, that the means justified the end to wake people up? Because in my opinion, COVID was the death of the mainstream media for a majority of people, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, that's again, this is an interesting way of looking at it. It's a different way of looking at it. And, I'm biased simply because, I don't think I can't find any operations that were done for the betterment of the public, for the good of citizens. It always seemed like rights were taken away or surveillance was increased, privacy gets diminished. So I like the intellectual aspect of it because it's an interesting way of framing it, flipping it upside down like that. But I'm biased, I admit it. I can totally admit it that I'm biased when it comes to that type of stuff.
Well, and that's what it is. It's I say intellectual, but it's more of just a mental discussion. And that's what I really like about, that's another favorite part of mine about the Hive, is that we can just have a discussion and get into that mindset. So thank you to everybody who was typing some stuff out with that. That had just popped into my head. And Jess to the Nest, again, thank you. I'm going to play this one more time. How unbelievable is it that this guy apparently had a conversation with Brian Koberger about the following?
Back, it's kind of funny because he was talking about how, what was he? He was talking about genealogy, because I was talking about the 23andMe because my sister had just did all that. And then he brought up something similar in his studies that had to do with like being able to catch criminals because of their relatives' DNA, which is, I guess, how he got caught up in his mix.
Thank you again, Jess to the Nest. I do have the full video. If people would like to go watch this, I will pull that up quickly now and just share where that's from. The original source.
It's a story that's gripped the nation.
the original source is Law and Crime Network. It's called Brian Koberger's Life Under the Radar, Walking in the Footsteps of Idaho Student Murders Suspect. So if you would like to go and check that out, that's where you can watch it.
So these tunnels, Birdie, this Fight Club,
Yes.
wasn't it originally? Because refresh my memory, right? Some of this stuff came out quite a while ago. Wasn't it one of the theories that it was occurring in the tunnels?
Well, that's what I've heard. And I have two quick hive mind finds, JJ, and then we're gonna get into it. I just wanted to say,
Let's do it.
with Accomplished Day. So one, I want to also say something quickly, and I'm gonna try to say this without just crashing out, because
Please crash out.
well, there's something that I can't stand about the internet, and it's just what people will say in the comments. And Accomplished Day gets up here last night and shows an incredible timeline where everybody was saying this was so amazing, and then was kind enough to put together slides of a comprehensive theory. Whether you agreed with it or disagreed with it, I don't know if that's even the point. But some of the comments about nerves, maybe saying or pausing, just drive me up a wall. And I don't know if it's a little bit of me being defensive about guests, and I'm not up here to scold anybody, but it's like, say that to me. Don't say it to the guests. You know what I'm saying? I get up here every night and I still stumble over my words. And it feels like bullying, and I hate that. And there's a reason why I don't have Accomplished Days quick cut up yet. And it's because I feel like I owed it to Accomplished Day to put in, as if it's even possible, to put in as much work into the quick cut with overlays and all of the audio clips that she went out and found. I felt like I owed it to her to have the quick cut where I'm not interrupting her theory or commenting on it in the middle of it, and just have it flow as one progressive theory. So that will be posted tomorrow, and I'm working on that. Okay. So that's why it was not up today. But I just wanted to say that I think Accomplished Day did a great job. And this is the part that I don't want to crash out about. It goes to show you that we do these things live, and you're affected by nerves. You're doing this for the first time. Everything that you say, every little noise, every cough, your background noise, whatever it is, gets caught live on camera. And so when you go and you watch the quick cut tomorrow and it flows perfectly and there's overlays, you don't hear me saying like or you don't hear Accomplished Day saying like or and you watch this 25-minute perfect video. Think about maybe other people that you might watch, and this is not hating on them. It's just, think about how you can perfectly curate something before you put it out there. And I respect that Accomplished Day came up here for the first time, did a 90-minute stream, said it with her chest on what she believed in. And I just wanted to take a couple minutes and say thank you again. And the quick cut will be up tomorrow. So anyways, Accomplished Day sent this in, and this is Dolly the Golden Doodle. And Dolly the Golden Doodle, I will say, Accomplished Day did accurately pin that her dog might sound like Murphy. And so if you have dogs, here's your warning that they might bark. But here is like a 5 or 6 second loop of Dolly. I think that the tone is, and the pacing is pretty close to what Murphy might sound like. Closer than I would have thought for a golden doodle, for sure. I haven't really been or spent time around many doodles. Have you?
No.
What did you think? Somewhat accurate?
Yeah, I think I would imagine like certain breeds are going to be similar in the way they sound and in the way they behave too. their inherent characteristics.
Do you like dogs?
Yeah, I love animals.
The only thing I can think of in my head is like, can I pet that dog? Can I pet that dog? All right. So again, I put that on there just to show that, but also make sure that I let everybody know tomorrow the full theory will be up, and I'm about halfway through it right now, and it is flowing together wonderfully. Okay, so JJ, what was the question that you asked? Now, it was, how did this Fight Club rumor start? And so I have not seen this clip. I had not seen this clip until Sluther Dare sent it to me. And I'm curious if anybody in here has. So I'm going to play this short clip first, and then let's discuss, because this was early on in the beginning.
Timeline that we have made available to us through law enforcement. So as far as we know, those gaps have not been filled yet. Was there an altercation? We don't know, because we're not privy to those interviews. I can tell you I've personally seen, though, different videos that have been sent to me at various times, certainly interesting verbiage between people at the Sigma Chi house and Maddie and others.
So she's seen videos that she feels compelled to bring up and saying there's been videos and language used at the Sigma Chi house between Maddie and others. Now, again, every single person that I show in these clips, I think that it is ironic that when you look at the beginning, when Ashley Banfield and Brian Enton are referring to their sources early on, it's like, wow, why did they go to that liquor store? That's completely, across the highway. Ashley Banfield's talking about an I-95 escape route. Well, that route, we had a local call in, shout out to MJ, called in and said, well, that goes to the state line right towards the Nez Perce Reservation. And if it was Mowich fleeing, maybe it was that way. Did they know about Mowich at that point? Now you have Jennifer Coffadaver, who's saying, well, I've personally seen videos and I've heard verbiage that's said at the Sigma Chi house to Maddie and others. Now, I find it a little bit odd that she says Maddie's name first.
Right.
And I especially find it odd that she's saying, or at least felt compelled enough to bring up, that the police won't confirm it, but she's seen them, where she'll say it on camera.
Yeah. It's funny how the fog of war, like a lot of the things get brushed away that come out early on. They anything that doesn't fit the narrative, they make it disappear, in any kind of high profile case. That's why I always say, like, a lot of times pay attention to what's being said early on. Like, for example, really super early on, the very, very beginning, there was a rumor going around on like the message boards that someone got dropped off at King Road, and the driver said, yeah, that's the house where people go to get drugs. And that got washed, right? That was never talked about on any of the media sources. They were pushing away from certain narratives and steering towards others.
It reminds me a lot of, and one of the best examples that I could think of off the top of my head, which, again, I think it applies to every case. It's just, how hard are you looking for it, or how often do you go back and listen to what sometimes is a tooth pulling report on something, but you get a little soundbite like this. I think of the Vegas shooting with the cab driver that's underneath I forget the exact hotel they were at, but you could see what looked to be gunfire coming from the hotel that wasn't at the Mandalay Bay.
Yeah.
And a lot of the videos there got scrubbed, and a lot of the police reports were talking about gunfire in multiple casino lobbies. It's maybe not as drastic in this case, but I have a plethora of videos lined up for this miniseries of things like this that, although she might not directly be calling it Fight Club, you can't tell me that her saying there might have been an altercation doesn't maybe ring a little bit of truth that, okay, clearly it's bubbled up high enough to where big time mainstream media people are hearing this.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, man, there's been so many, like I always say, threads in this case. And I don't know, man. I think when there's that much confusion around a case, because in the beginning there was a lot of confusion in the case. And so I think when you have that much variety of potential things that could have happened that we all heard about early on in the case, it definitely steers the conversation in different directions until the media grabs onto one narrative and they all parrot the same narrative, right? And what happens? A lot of people forget about all those things that were discussed early on. And what I would say to that, Birdie, is why? Why would you not address a significant event that may have likely happened the night of the murders? Like, why? To me, a good faith effort to investigate something, you don't have to bury things. That's not a good faith investigation.
I agree with that. Why you would do it, I think it's rather obvious. And sorry, I just had to get up. I heard this like giant thud, and my pregnant wife is trying to carry up a giant like water jug that we get delivered to the house. So like, what's going on? She's like, sorry, I'm trying to get this done. She dropped it. So, anyways, she's fine. But I'm just thinking to myself, like, I'll be done, in an hour or less than that. But why wouldn't you report on that? Well, I think that there is a couple of threads that we have to pull, as you say. What's at risk if it exposes something else? Does it make more work? One of the things that I try to keep in mind at my sales job, which I think that this could be a common denominator for anybody that's at a job, right? At the end of the day, I think more people have jobs than they have careers. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
This is a job. I go to it for a paycheck. And maybe at a certain point you were very passionate about being your career, but life happens and now it's just a job and you enjoy it and you like your job. But nobody really wants to just have a bunch more work made for them. And so when I'm selling, I try to keep that in mind. Like, how is this going to sound to them? Is this going to play on the human psychology factor of, wow, that sounds like a lot of work? And maybe that could be a reason for stuff being buried. If a Fight Club rumor breaks into the investigation, well, now they have to go and investigate all of those people in depth, versus if they don't let it get known to the public and they do swipe it under the rug or brush under the rug, it could be less of a headache for them and they could just investigate it at will, maybe, and there's not pressure.
Yeah, I mean, but she's ex-FBI.
Well, that's true.
She probably had some so this is the first thing that I thought of when I saw this video. Whitcomb's ex-FBI, right? You have people that we know the FBI was involved in the investigation, right? The whole tip of Brian Koberger's name and all of that. So I find it interesting in the sense that, could it have all just been a distraction to just present, you got to trickle stuff out to the public, get them talking about, oh my God, was there some kind of fight? And that's what led to the murders, because if they already knew what happened, or there was a much more orchestrated event that took place that they don't want to get out, you would want to distract people away. And what's one of the good ways to do that? Present them with something else to throw around and talk about.
I think it's also very telling with the whole ex-FBI and how much Cyree is ex law enforcement. Both of them were asked at point blank, does this have anything to do with area Knights of the Cartel? And they just breezes right by. They are comfortable in that. They don't make it a bigger deal. They don't dive into why do people think that, or they don't even say, I could see some speculation, but it doesn't. And they don't put it to bed either. It's a move on. I'm going to say a certain thing. And it's easier said than done to be the person interviewing somebody like a Cy-Ray, I'm sure. Or I can tell you from firsthand experience, like with Chris Wickham, he told me, don't pull any questions. However, at a certain point, you kind of have to do what Ron Funk said. And Ron Funk, I think, said it wonderfully. He's like, our goal was to kind of, what's that word that they say in law when you just want to get everything out and it's not cross-examining?
Extract.
Not debrief. No, there's a legal word that I'm drawing a blank on right now.
Depose.
Thank you. And treat an interview like that where you don't necessarily have that much time with somebody like that in the community. Just try to depose and get as much questions answered and just see what their response is versus maybe getting them on their heels and cross-examining them.
Right. I agree. I think that's the professional way to do it. That's the intelligent way to do it, because a lot of times you can get a lot of information by what do they want to avoid? How do they answer certain questions? I also pay attention to people's body language, when they're being interviewed. And somebody a while ago in the chat asked if I thought the Cy-Ray thing was an op. I do. I mean, that's my honest.
Hey, I'm not surprised, but would you say before the interview or after?
I would say he could have been part of it all along, an operation. So to appear like he was going to come have this bombshell information and then hold off. So it's all trickled out and then come on and completely do a gaslighting operation and do what's seemingly a 180. Remember, Twiz was always talking about how he spoke with Cy-Ray, and Cy-Ray was saying that Brian, he wasn't even in Moscow that night, right? So unless Twiz was lying, then why would Cy-Ray say that if he already had information that convinced him that Kohberger was guilty? Right? Kohberger couldn't be guilty if he wasn't in Moscow that night. That's assuming you believe what really happened. See, I don't at this point. I don't even believe the most basic aspects of the case. And I think all these, I think what we have seen, Birdie, is a very coordinated operation. And they don't do that just to cover up something like that might be ugly to get out about individuals or the school.
I think that is so well said. And I almost think that might be something that many people, including myself, have not been able to articulate. When you say the word individual, that sounds different than saying it's just a cover up. And that's assuming that we're just looking through the lens of a straight up case, of course, because I don't believe that we are looking at a straight up case. But if this was just a straight up case, what would the individual, being Brian Kohberger, why would you frame him? Or for a victim, why would that individual be worth framing somebody for? Say that again. There's some people asking you to repeat yourself.
Well, I just think the amount of coordination that we have seen, what I believe we have seen with people, and they've trickled out, right? It hasn't been all at once. It's been in piecemeal over time. These people have come out. I don't think that level of coordination happens to cover up the acts of an individual or, just people, just randomly. I just don't see that being the case. Even if all right, I'm going to try to figure out how to say this.
You know what I was getting at by trying to articulate that?
Wait, say that again.
I'm just saying, like, you're understanding what I mean by saying that people have been trying to articulate this for a long time, as far as the motive that would even make somebody decide it's go time. we need to do this.
Right. Yeah. Well, so this is going to be, let me think of like a way to say this that's going to make sense. Sometimes it's hard to explain. You have a situation where we've been looking at a case for a long time. And even though we may be questioning the official narrative, we still have this body of information in our heads. All of us, we've talked about it a lot of the different theories and the different people in the periphery and the suspicious things, but it's still information that we have obtained by following the case. If you just take a step back and pretend it's not the Idaho 4 case, pretend you're looking at you're writing a paper for school, a research paper, and they're giving you a scenario and you have to analyze it. You're not connected to it like we have been with the Idaho 4 case.
I'm following you. Yep.
So we're doing a thought experiment. So think about if you looked at a situation where most of the information the public was told about the case turned out to be false from the beginning. And then you have people with deep connections to law enforcement and intelligence coming out over time, releasing information that still does not solve the case part, like we've talked about, like the case. You have authors that come out and write books before the trial, it even gets to trial, determining his guilt. If you were to see this on paper and it wasn't something that you were connected to, you had no intellectual or emotional investment into, I would argue that any intelligent person would say, this is theater. This is a fabrication of a narrative, and this is a coordinated operation, not an investigation into a case.
Well, look at what Crazy Bird Lady said. Crazy Bird Lady, great comment, said a cover-up happens after the crime. In this case, there's been coordination and planning before the crime, which screams operation. I also think too, JJ, it's worth asking this question. Let's say that we had to pick one of these two options. I'm trying to think of and one of the options we can combine. We'll say one or the other for option A, because I know that people will be split on this, or we're going to go with option B. Okay. Option B is easy. Option B is where we are at today. We are in the situation with Brian Koberger, with the media, with victims' parents, etc. You following? Option A would be that the university came out and they said, which I'm going to take some of the top theories are, this was the frats that killed classmates, or this was a drug hit. In your opinion, if you were to merge either one of those two for option A and option B where we are today, what do you think is having the longer term effect play out for them? As far as for the school, as far as reputation, perhaps.
Right. Well, this option is the one that would keep students in school. They would come back after the break, right? After Thanksgiving break, they'd be more likely to come back to school. So financially, the first option would be a disaster. Those first two, scenarios would be a financial disaster.
Well, what would the main reason be? I want to dive into that because I agree. Because you're not able to wrap it up with an easily explainable solution being either one of those, the frats or the organized crime. It's a group.
Right. Oh, yeah. I see what you're saying. Well, that's what a patsy is for, right? The lone gunman.
Exactly.
Right? Rather than addressing an organization or a coordinated event, you give the public their pound of flesh. You give them the lone gunman, right? And we'll just use that as an example. So, and it's a standard tactic. Now, here's the big question that I ask to myself. Why would they be still using these same tactics that they've used over and over and over? Because they've worked. Why change? If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
And they have everything in place to continue to have it to work. They have, if anything, a more powerful way to emit their message via social media now, via
Right.
headlines, apps, billboards, radios, not just newspapers and 4 channels.
Exactly. And so that whole idea, what we're digging into, to me, speaks to the fact that there was more than just money at stake with this, in my opinion, because of the level of coordination. Now, we won't, but we could go into like a multi-level analysis of like the banking industry and all that. But
Well, when you were saying that, I thought you were going to go right in this direction of Mallory's question, which I think you can still pivot with what you were about to segue into. And Mallory said, and I've heard this argument, and this is a tough question to answer, because Mallory said ahead of time, most likely in response to Crazy Bird Lady's comment, if you remember that, Mallory said ahead of time would mean we are saying that people were okay with having these young humans die. I want to just make a quick comment, and I'll say you could make an argument with 9/11. But that's not an extreme thing. And rather than just give examples, JJ, I feel like you're going to be better than me at answering how it didn't necessarily mean that people are okay and that 4 murders are a part of the plan. And this could still play out the way that it has. Would you be able to maybe explain that?
well, it's like I could just give an easy answer, but there's a few different levels to that. Number one, what do you believe really happened? Right? That is first and foremost. Think about this. To Mallory's point, every time there is a military action of any kind, not even a war, like we're going to go and bomb a village because the head of a terrorist group is supposedly there. They know that there's going to be collateral damage in advance.
Yeah. And I don't want to breeze over it. I don't want to interrupt your thought process, but just make sure that in this, because I'm even curious, the setup of it, like how do they know? Because you started the stream with how perfect is it that it's in this little area,
Right.
and like that's what I'm getting at too.
Well, so I think what Mallory's getting at is the planning aspect. They would have to know what was going to happen. I
Right.
think that's what she's getting at.
And I think it's a good question, because I think I see a lot of people ask that when you say operation. It's like, well, that means that these people would have to die.
I think what happens a lot, and this is a broader question or sort of a broader perspective, is that I think it was Crazy Bird Lady just said, like, the ends justify the means. There are people in the world who don't think like we do. There are people who, for example, you go into the Navy SEALs, right? You make it through buds, you Hell Week, all that stuff. You become a Navy SEAL. You may have entered into that with these romantic ideas of being a Navy SEAL and so on and so forth. But what do Navy SEALs do? Right? You have to be okay with the things you'll have to do. Now, I would imagine people have to convince themselves that they're the good guys and it's for the greater good, right? So to the point of the ends justify the means. So if there was something that was planned in advance to carry out a larger agenda, we're just thought experimenting here. We're we're throwing theories out there. It's just theories. And you wanted to implement a surveillance agenda. And you know that there is a lot of money and a lot of power and power consolidation that would result in certain events taking place. There are certain people who would be okay with that sacrifice. Now, that's looking at it from like a pre-planned thing that they knew about in advance, right? The people coordinating it. Then there's the theory of the a drug hit, right? A CI got hit, at least one CI. That's another scenario. There are two very different scenarios, obviously, because one would be, I guess you could say, friendly fire, so to speak, right? It's planned by people who have a bigger agenda. The other is it's an event that happens as a result of something the quote unquote good guys were doing, right? For the greater good, having CIs, college kids that are CIs. I just think, I know I'm kind of going all over the place because it depends how you want to look at the situation, like what you believe is more likely to have happened. Now, I think because these things have happened in the past, and I know the types of people that are out there in the world, I've studied sociopaths and psychopaths and things like that. I don't rule anything out. I need you to pull me back, Bertie, and refocus me.
No, I'm following you, but I guess I was asking specific to the Idaho 4 case. If I had to think about how is it that the coordination might fall into place, my answer would be it's because something coordinated was happening surrounding that area prior to the deaths occurring, that the coordination was absorbed rather into this murder investigation. So the parallel investigation dynamic may explain why we see some of this coordination, because there were players that were in place already investigating something that was touch and go, and very well could have had somebody indirectly or directly involved in that house, a peripheral player or family member, that once this happened, now they're on high alert. And the coordination, from what we're seeing, looks as if, well, this must have been implemented prior to the murders, because look at the media, look at their statements, look at their interviews. However, it might not have been implemented because of the murders themselves. There could have been something else in the background but we're just seeing it almost attached to the murders,
right? Because it's playing out after the murders, and we've all been paying attention to what happened there.
Does that make sense, Hive? Does that make sense? I hope because that is tough to explain, JJ.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. It's there. We're looking at something, and we're noticing things that after the fact, that after what happened. But if there was really highly sophisticated coordination going on, it would have likely on some level been in the area going on before this event, right? So like the funding, I would argue that the surveillance stuff has been in play for quite a while, actually. Like we're only now just, it's come into the mainstream over the last like couple of years, but Palantir has been around for a long time. They're not new.
17 years unprofitable.
Yeah, they were CIA contractors, so they were developing that technology for the intelligence agencies. So I think that the coordination aspect, to me, what seems like coordination, so to take it back to the beginning of what I was talking about, all the people that have come out that have explained things that, in my opinion, are just to confuse and distract people, I think screams operation to me.
Yeah.
Look over here, don't look over there. And so what could that operation have been? I mean, I keep going back to this. What we know about Brian Kohberger is only what we've been told after the event. That's all we know. We're told that he was this grad student there, and he just moved out there that semester, that, right before the semester, from Pennsylvania. And the thing that makes me start it has made me start thinking this is actually even higher than we think it is. It goes up even further, is because of the fingerprints that are all over this case are, in my opinion, are more indicative of intelligence rather than law enforcement.
Well, let's talk about those fingerprints. Okay. Because I was just going back to some slides that I had made back in the day that I called it Operation Bundy. That was back when they were really hitting hard on the serial killer. Then I'm going to play this video of a Fight Club and show a couple other very interesting clips. But I like this conversation. And I think that this is what Wednesday nights are more so for, is these bigger picture these bigger picture conversations. So to Mallory's point, I think that we could all agree these 4 students' identities were genuine. The only thing that I have personally seen and heard, and I've seen you all echo in here a handful of times, is that it didn't seem like many people knew Kaylee.
Right.
That really has stuck out to me. And it also seemed like there were things that you might know about your roommates that you don't. But without getting too into the weeds and nitpicky, I would say for the overwhelming majority, the 4 students' identities were genuine. They certainly seem genuine if you were to compare it to Brian Koberger's online digital footprint. Nobody knows this guy, apparently. There's nothing online. I've said that many times. That's one fingerprint as far as the defendant being Koberger. Another fingerprint is that, would you say that the house became a managed crime scene? Public access restricted?
Yeah. I would say that there was something about that house before.
Well, and if we, and that's the hard part to answer. I'm trying to back into that maybe in a way, because I don't really know how to answer it, because you can't see anything before. You didn't know to look there. And that's the advantage that they have. Nobody expected it. But graphic photographs or videos completely withheld, no leaks. Then we have emergency and forensic documentation that was controlled. For sure, emergency services that seemed to be controlled, down to the delay of the 911 call, the debate on EMS not going inside and who declares death, certain things about their autopsies matching up to a timeline. Doesn't make sense. A really big fingerprint, and I feel like I've said the word fingerprint in the last 2 minutes more than I've probably said in the last 10 years of my life, but a huge fingerprint is, a lot of times families feel deceived, or these families are indirectly involved and wrapped up in this. And that's not just with murders. I'm saying many times you will see people who were actually involved in whatever situation going on, like Paddock's brother, like outside of his house.
Crisis actors?
Well, maybe not crisis actors. That's not what I'm getting at. But I'm just saying, do you feel like the families are deceived? Where the families are even like, what is going on? Xana's mom calling in and say, this doesn't make any sense. It's got to be closer than that. Right? Media messaging being controlled and centralized. That's an obvious one. Crime scene photos. I still think at that point about they will release a detailed autopsy report of exactly how these young adults were killed, down to every stab wound and mark on their body, but they won't release cell phone records.
Yeah. That's another, well, once you start getting into the tech side of things, who's really the king of all that shit?
We got the 3-letter agencies.
Yeah, it ain't and it's not the FBI. The NSA, Signal Intelligence, they're the biggest agency, and that's what they specialize in, anything to do with tech and signal intelligence. So,
and agencies that are involved, to Care Bear, thank you. This is an awesome point. Another one of my favorite things about the Hive is when these comments flow in at the perfect time. Care Bear said, and the agencies involved that do not do murder cases. We are talking about a small town quadruple homicide. And this might piss people off because of maybe an emotional attachment that we've had to this case. And it's like, well, they need the resources, yada, yada, yada. Every weekend, there are people that are shot, stabbed, murdered, etc. every day. And probably groups of people. And it just seems like the way that we're hearing about all of these, and Brian Koberger for 31 days in a stabbing to not be caught earlier, and he's caught in the most odd way possible, and these agencies are involved. I digress. And JJ, I want to get to these other videos, not to just completely put a cap on that conversation, but I do have some really interesting videos. If you want to give a closing statement on that, I'm going to move on.
Yeah, no. We could go off all night about that kind of stuff, and so it's probably best that we don't do that, because I could go on and on about the theories that I've had.
Absolutely, I could too, man. Some people have probably seen this. It's been a while since I've watched this. Shout out to Chrissy's Chaos, the underground fight club at U of I. Now, do you believe that this could be what Coffin Dapper was talking about? Let's see if we hear Maddie's name or anybody's name. I don't know. Just floating ideas out there.
He's gonna fucking level. I'm going on the ground. Who's got another?
I'm just gonna put the
Get him, Nathan! Get him, Nathan! Get him, Nathan! Get him! Get him, Nathan! Get him, Nathan! Get him, Nathan!
Don't judge her.
Get it!
It's pretty funny.
He's fucking him off! Yeah! Fuck him off!
Throwing haymakers.
I kind of want to fucking do it. Hey, Robbie.
something I just want to point out. Look at all the phones. Look at all the phones out. 1, 2, 3. You know what I'm saying? And that is not Ethan, by the way. So, in my mind, I've said this before. If that's the fight club everybody's referring to, and if you've tuned in, you know I've said this, that didn't cause a murder. I've done things like that. I think a lot of college age dudes probably have. And you guys could probably tell about like my reaction. I when I say like I was laughing at it,
Yeah.
I don't think that that's violent. I think that that's just young dudes, testosterone full, girls there, your buddies hyping you up,
Couple beers.
a couple beers, a couple fireball shots, and all the phones out. I mean, who would think that it'd be a stretch that they would be streaming that? Like, I don't think that that would be weird to, if a Sigma Chi did have a fight club and they charged people to watch their fight club. Like, if that's what it is. I'm saying if that is the said fight club.
Right.
Now, I don't believe that that would even be a video that Coffin Daffer would bring up about an altercation either. That's where I'm getting a little bit of mixed signals, because this looks like good old college fun.
Yeah. Yeah. They were squaring off. It was like real fights break out in a completely different way than two guys putting gloves on and squaring off. You know, that
For
looked
sure.
like good, clean fun. Everybody wants to blow off some steam, like to your point, impress the ladies, have, you know, you get a little juiced up, you're, you know, fired up, whatever. That didn't look like a violent type of scenario.
And let me just say too, I'm saying in general, if that is what people are calling Fight Club, like if it's that situation and that's how Fight Club gets out, I don't care where that is. That's not murderous. And I would find it highly unlikely that that would cause somebody to murder somebody. If anything, that you're going round 2 next Saturday, or so you're going, you know what I'm saying? You're having a rematch next Saturday.
Yeah. Yeah. And typically real fights where there's a real beef, they escalate in a different way than that stuff. You know, it's very different than that.
I'm not even gonna lie. There's been some times, sorry, I just said, oh, I'm not even gonna lie, as my velo fell into my mouth. My bad. When it's a real fight, and I think I might speak for almost everybody that's been around a bar fight that breaks out of nowhere, it is a little bit like if you hear like a gunshot go off or some shit, or like it makes you jolt. It's like it's fast, it's quick, it's violent. They don't give a damn who's in your way. And you can just tell with people's emotion.
Right.
Right. Especially like, have you ever seen like one of your buddies? And we don't have to go down the storytelling route, but I've seen one of my buddies, 2-time All-American, middle linebacker. He reminded me of Thad from Blue Mountain State. And I swear to God, if you cut this dude's brain open, it would be elevator music and dip spit. But he could play linebacker like nobody's business. And I saw him get into this fight, and this dude was huge, and he whooped him. And he starts just saying the weirdest shit. He's like, I fucking eat people like you. And I'm like, what is going on right now? But I'm just saying the emotional intensity is so much different than that.
It is.
And now think about murder. Think about murder even above that is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. I mean, think about how rumors spread, right? People exaggerate. So to some people, that may be Fight Club. And then it gets passed around, and there was a Fight Club there. And that is the Fight Club. You know, like, see, here's the thing. I don't want to sound like an idiot, but I have to break it down. There's different types of people in the world. We all know this. And there's some dark people, and there are some people who have been fighting their whole lives. Those kids in that crowd right there were not those people. No, I've been around those people, and they're scary people because they don't care about hurting somebody, like seriously hurting somebody. And the vibe is a lot different than that.
And that was my point in saying that. It's like, if that was the Fight Club, not even close. Think about a bar fight and how that raises up. And now think about a group of people going in and murdering people that fought back. And while two people are home. And one of them, it's just, it has to be a different mindset going in.
Yeah. And I believe that there was an altercation, but I think it was at the frat. And there was two guys who were a little bit liquored up, and they had a beef. Sometimes you have beefs with people that are like, you hang out with them, they're part of your group, but you rub each other the wrong way, that kind of thing. And so you're drinking one night and you get into a scrap. I mean, it happens all the time. And that type of thing, in my opinion, typically doesn't escalate into a quadruple homicide. So if, because I know people have made that connection.
Well, I've always wondered if the altercations that maybe they've talked about just happened at or near the frat. And let's say it was like, oh, Maddie got into a fight with somebody or Ethan was yelling at somebody. I mean, do you think that maybe one may assume, oh, it must have just been a fight club or it's Saturday fight club night. And that's how it got roped in? Because I've always wondered if the person that they've gotten to this altercation with is somebody that nobody knows. I mean, we've heard I forget whose interview, but he talked about outside of the whites and he just said, it was like 10 on 10, or he's seen a couple guys that he's never seen before. He doesn't know if they lived in the dorms or where they came from. But I do wonder is it a possibility that there was a screaming match going on with people they don't know and people just recorded it. And what they heard was like, oh, that's an altercation. That's not just a drunk fight. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. And that stuff happens a lot, man. At colleges and at parties, right? That it's like that social contagion. Like you get that a fight breaks out. Next thing you know, there's like a melee because people get amped up and people jump in and things like that. Yeah. I mean, I just wonder why they would cover that kind of thing up because it's such a normal occurrence in a college town,
Totally agree. And speaking of students just talking, I had not seen this. This is from Conspiracy, their channel. This was sent to me again by Sleuther Dare. Thank you, Sleuth, for getting this over to me. But this is a very interesting compilation of students being interviewed about not just Brian, but how everything played out. And I find it very intriguing. Take a listen.
It is disconcerting that there's somebody out there who's done such a horrible thing and they haven't been caught.
I've noticed a lot of my friends that are girls have parents that are really scared and that the girls have chosen not to come back.
I text my mom every time I leave. I text her when I get to class. It makes her feel better.
I'm more cautious now. I used to keep my doors unlocked all the time and now I don't anymore. It's just like not knowing who it is.
If I were to go out when it's nighttime, I'd bring a knife with me, like a small pocket knife. A little bit of safety protection.
Definitely bringing like my taser and bear spray with me and making sure I'm not walking alone at night.
I brought some mace up. I'd never really carried that before. But I just checking in and making sure my friends, especially, my friends that are girls, my girlfriend, they're feeling safe.
And do you think the police have been doing a good job so far?
Well, they haven't given us much information.
Yeah, I think
there's a lot more evidence that we just don't know that they do.
Unfortunately, in my opinion, I think they're running out of time because these things, the longer they get drug out, the harder it is to catch somebody or find somebody.
They may be still present, and releasing information like that might scare him to a point where he leaves the country.
Do you have any theories of your own?
I don't know. The way everything got brought out was really weird, in my opinion, as far as how the 911 call was made like 8 hours later. I just think the timeline is very strange.
I think it's either a student that might be on campus or honestly a serial killer.
It's entirely likely, being that half the population of this town is students. There's like a 50% chance it's probably a student.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that he would be in Canada right now. It's not that far away. I mean, if you look at when the murder allegedly took place, the time they actually found the body, there's plenty of time that he could have been in a completely different country.
And my friends, we all think he probably left town when everyone left for Thanksgiving break because that's like a perfect cover.
So, I mean, even these students, they're saying it's most likely a student. How it played out is very odd. Why wouldn't they leave the country? And yet none of those things happened.
Yeah.
And I saw Mallory put a comment in the chat that said just girls. That's another aspect too. Many times it seemed as if like there was a guy killed, but you heard what, 2 or 3 different groups talking about their friends that are girls or their female friends, and if they are female, they're more concerned for their safety now. And I'm not saying that that's wrong, but I'm just saying, you got to remember Ethan was in that too. So it wasn't just a serial killer against females. That also made no sense about Brian Koberger, the serial killer too. Most people have very specific types, especially if you're going after ladies.
Well, I think, I don't know who, it might have been the Custody Queens with Ron. They just talked about what you and I had talked about someone going into a house with a bunch of people with just a knife, right? That idea. And if Ethan is there and they don't know that he's there, there's still a bunch of cars in the parking lot. So it's just weird, the shaping of what happened. Like Ethan was downplayed. So that just now you made me think of that. Like, I don't know, man. It's certain things make me think, why would they downplay? Maybe because it's easier to drum up fear when you focus on the females.
Maybe it's just instinctual to an extent. I feel in my gut that we are going to get a version of the truth of the narrative that even we will accept. And I fear that it still won't be the truth. And I just want to make sure people are conscious of that and to stay on your toes about it, because they've had a lot of time. Clearly, they watch channels like this. They watch other channels that talk about this case. To think that the truth will be the outright truth, I'm not too sure. But I guarantee you that what we are going to see play out, if it does play out, which I'm hopeful that we will see something, is that it will be a story that will right the wrongs of the narrative. It will not be a story of truth per se. And then that's when the next step of finding out the truth is, because there's no way that they're going to come out and release some blanketed excuse for all of this that was done, for all of the things that we've seen. I think they're going to probably check every box that would satisfy even one of the toughest critics.
Will you want to make a prediction?
Yeah, do it.
Will you make one also?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that there is still a chance that Koberger gets exonerated. And I think if it happens, they will say, well, you know what? If we had more surveillance in that area, this guy wouldn't have spent 3 years in prison for crimes he didn't commit. And guess what the public will do? Like we've talked about, they'll ask for it because they'll be so disgusted that this poor guy spent 3 years in prison for a crime he didn't commit. And I'll let you give, that's just one. I'm sure we each have many theories, but that's just one.
I would echo that. I would say that counts as one of mine, but I will, for the sake of the conversation, pick a different prediction. And I think that while, yes, there's a chance that Brian Koberger could be exonerated, I bet that, I don't even want to say it out loud. I think that there's a chance that Brian Koberger appeals, gets to a new trial, and gets re-railroaded.
Yeah. All right. But now, is he really, or is that what we're told is happening?
I don't know. I just think that with some of the stuff that if I'm reading between the lines, I'm trying to stay balanced with my bias. And that is things that could completely reframe this case. What would be a reason for potentially re-railroading Brian Koberger publicly? It would shut everybody up. We would see quote unquote evidence. And I'm saying railroaded, like the jury convicts him. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that they could put it out there.
Like a retrial.
Like a retrial.
Well, yeah, he didn't have a trial,
Nixon.
so I don't even know what you'd call that.
Or yeah, like he gets a new trial, but I'm saying, or he gets a trial.
Yeah.
If he's not exonerated, let's say this goes to trial, like in the Court of Appeals or something, right? Just I'm saying more evidence gets shown potentially, and or like it's just going to drag out. It'll be appeal after appeal after appeal after appeal after appeal. I do wonder if that's a possibility, because I would argue that this not going to trial is a massive, like the plea deal is a massive reason for so much speculation. But I hope not. But you asked me to make a prediction. I agreed heavily with yours, and for the sake of the conversation, I went on the other side of it.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying it might happen.
Yeah. No, I see what you're saying. I mean, I think what they would benefit from is another platform to push the surveillance stuff more, and a trial would create that, would create another platform to the media to start talking about the case again and push that narrative about, oh, if we only had this flock camera system in place at all colleges. And then what happens? A college starts in a college, it spreads to the surrounding areas. You got it. They ease into it.
I've said that. We've asked for it.
And I just wanted to bring up two real quick things before I forget. A big thread I hope we will pull in the future is the supposed 4 hours that they locked down the crime scene before they let like the coroner and other people in there, because that to me is a massive red flag.
STAGING.
Yeah, I mean, that's that right there, guys. It's massive. And if you really think about that angle right there, because that supposedly happened. And so these are the types of things that are like massive, but yet the media never talked about it, not in any investigative way.
Dude, I'm just going to say the no photos is still so odd to me. No photos, no videos. They say leaks happen, but come on, guys. That's not the type of leaks. Like, it's a shoulder that you can't even make anything out of. A leak, in my opinion, is like, holy hell, that is a mangled body. What the hell did I just see? Like when you accidentally scroll onto something. I almost wonder if that's in a way like a strategic leak.
Yeah. I look, man, I think operation. So I think everything has been strategic in this case. And I think all these people that we've mentioned that have come out and done interviews were all strategically placed. I mean, look, we're pretty smart, but they're smarter. The CIA's got some of the smartest people on the planet in their operations division. Like, I think they're definitely sharp, and they know how to mess with people's minds and distract and misdirect and push narratives, and they've had a lot of practice.
Yes, they have, JJ, and I'm going to go through these super chats here. Let's see. We got Mary Holt. Thank you so much for the super chat. It said, Birdie, that makes a lot of sense. Enjoy when you have JJ on the panel. Appreciate you both. Yes, JJ will be MIA next Wednesday. Ideally, he'll be in the chat still, but he will be back the following Wednesday. Thank you, Miss Kim, for the gems. Tracy for the gems. Angel Heart, great to see you, said, not just anyone could do this. It had to be people who unalived others at one time, or they all took a psycho pill. And we know that didn't happen. It was people who took advantage of the situation. I still go back to the timeline window is so tight. And these kids have corroborated being at this place or surrounding areas, and the screams that we hear and all this stuff. I just find it mind-boggling that even in the midst of a cleanup, something doesn't get out and somebody doesn't walk over and stumble into the cleanup. The entire thing and getting rid of murder weapons, clothes, no blood outside, all this stuff.
Dude, Cy Ray saying there was no signs of a cleanup.
Well, okay. That's another thread that I want to pull. It's like sometimes these people are telling us the truth. We just are so blinded emotionally that we can't see it. If there's no signs of a cleanup and they can't put Brian Koberger inside of that house or connect him to any of the victims, whether it's Jeffrey or Chris Whitcomb or Cy Ray, it's like, are we looking at the same crime or are we looking at a crime for real?
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing here?
I think they're fucking with us, man.
I don't disagree. I think that is a guarantee that's absolutely what it is to an extent. Mary Jane, good to see you. Thank you for the gem. Dana, thank you for the gem. Malice in Wonderlands, Truth Sleuth ×2. It's all sus, says cops, state, etc. have been sus for a while. They have been investigated by FBI, and this case was clearly a cover-up for whatever reason. Crime not known beforehand, but used as an in to get the crooked cops. Man, the sting on King. That might be another series I revisit. The sting on King. And maybe going back to that point that we had discussed with Jess to the Ness's hive mind find theory was, let's say that there now is going to be a massive wake-up call to people. Does this also wake up the police? Hey, you can't just rely on these quote-unquote tips from the FBI that you just get handed a name, because your ass will be exposed via FOIA body cam request, and everybody on the internet will be combing through, how did you handle this crime scene? Perhaps. I want that theory to be true. I want it to be that there's a small group of people within this government that see all of the evil going on with the overreach on surveillance and rights. And they're like, we need to do something that can piggyback off of an ongoing investigation that nobody's going to question, that will expose how slippery of a slope combining AI, genetic genealogy, flock cameras, and all of this other predictive criminal behavior. I mean, hey, we got WSU that's right across the state line from Moscow, Idaho. They're getting a ton of funding. They have a top PhD student who did just apply for the Pullman partnership with Chief Gary Jenkins. Dr. David Macon does a ton of funding. He's written a bunch of white papers, so we know that any data collected or any study that we may be trying to accomplish to show and document and publish this will be in good hands. Now, we have to figure out what is the parallel investigation that's going on in that area. Okay, the Pacific US 95 highway has a ton of drugs that are flowing up through the southern border, through Arizona, all the way up into Canada. There's been a lot of pressure on the southern border, so now they started to come in through the north via Idaho. Okay, we already have a couple of families with CIs, or we have people that are confidential informants. Do any of them have children that go to the school? WSU? No. What about right across state lines? Moscow? Maybe. Okay, who are they? I don't, like, you know what I'm saying? You could just role play this out. And you could think how they might be able to war game piggybacking something where it's coordinated and it's ready to go for when something happens that they can capitalize with.
Right.
Nefarious or for good.
Right. I mean, and again, I guess it depends on how people look at it, right? Because I could say, like what you just talked about, somebody out there thinks that no, they're the good guys. They're really actually trying to expose the bigger picture corruption. Whereas I might look at it and say, no, they're just pushing these elite agendas that goes right in line with the Great Reset. You know, like that's, but again, I'm biased. Everybody's biased, right? So it depends how you look at it.
And you could flip that. You could say, what I'm going to do is I'm going to recruit ex FBI agents who might be sick of some of the things that they've done in the past. Maybe they don't like how the agency put them in certain situations. Let's use them in a situation for good.
I want to believe that so
I want to
bad.
believe it too, JJ. I want to believe it too.
I mean, I want to get rid of the amount of black pill that I've swallowed.
Clearly. You, Yvonne, thank you so much for the super chat. Love Another Habit said before Brian Koberger was accepted at WSU, he applied to the Pullman Police internship in March with a recommendation from Macon. How did Macon know him? I have been trying to track down that connection for so long. The only thing that I can think of is that it was during his application process to the criminology department for his PhD, or it was some sort of referral from Professor Ramsland, who also does a lot of funded projects and works with FBI and police.
Or I meant to say this, Birdie, before and I forgot. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you.
No, go for it.
I just want to point this out. The CIA gives people covers, right? I'm not saying Koberg is CIA. I'm just pointing out a tactic that's always used by intelligence agencies. Their cover is art dealer, whatever. So he could have been working for the feds beforehand, and his cover was grad student, TA.
I can go there mentally.
Research assistant. Anyway, sorry, man.
No,
it just popped into my head.
I like that thought. It's for sure a good thought. Jay Wiswall, Dana, Tamlam, wow, said, well done, gentlemen, with a $50 super chat. Thank you so much, Tamlam. I appreciate that. And well done to everybody tonight in the Hive. We got 0 fucks given, sincerely, Gen X. And Malice in Wonderland says, have you seen the drag marks on the bottom of Maddie Mogan's mattress? Like she was put into the bed and dragged up to the pillows. I have. Now, the other part that gets me about the staging, the way that they have perpetrated that into the media, into the public-facing realm of their narrative, is that it goes back to my crash out in Globe Media. And now he posed the bodies. I actually think that that's what caused my crash out, was that Globe Media said that Brian Koberger posed the bodies. That was right when that broke, I believe. I don't know how you commit. I don't even know how posing bodies is on your mind. And I'm sorry, even as an experienced person, unless you're told to and you're getting a photo or you're sending them. And if there's people that aren't related, why pose them too? Why not just pose the target? Why not pose the 2 targets if there was more than one, right? To stage all of them, cover Ethan. And then if they didn't do it, then why would the roommates do it? There's such a pretzel to be untangled in that. And it leads you down 90 different thoughts as far as a theory as to why and what is the motive and how do they have time? How do they not have DNA? Where is their DNA on the victims? How did they not drag blood throughout the house into their car? I don't know.
I mean, there are a lot of theories that I have that I don't really talk about. I'm sure you do, Birdie, as well. You and I have talked about some of them, because I try to go with like the most plausible, but I have other potential theories. Like I'm not 100% sure about exactly what played out. I just know what the overarching idea is, which is we're not told the truth. What's that?
You're like talking like a robot.
Oh, really? Oh, I don't know what happened on my end. Hold on. I don't know. Is that any better?
Maybe.
I don't know why it's wigging out. I just closed my other browser. Is that any better?
No, that's unfortunate. Damn it. Oh, he's not for you guys? Is it me that sounds like a robot?
No, you sound fine on my end.
Oh, well, I'm the problem.
I don't know. Yeah, StreamYard gets weird sometimes.
Okay, well, that's on me, but sorry, JJ, I missed all of that, but the Hive heard it, and if you were not done, I apologize for interrupting.
No, it's all good, man. No, I'm just saying how you and I have talked about other theories that, you know, you could think of other scenarios. It's hard because you have to try to go with some semblance of what you piece together based on information. But the problem is, if the information we've been given isn't accurate, then it's very hard to be that confident.
A lot of the information has just been told to us too. You know,
Yeah.
That's another hard piece of it is, and it's been like that since day one. But we are at time. JJ, phenomenal job. Hive, you guys rock. I will be back on tomorrow evening, 7 p.m. Central. Quick announcement. I'll say this again tomorrow. I'm putting up the quick cut of Accomplished Days Theory tomorrow morning. Please go ahead and give that a watch if you did not see that last night. And then also, this weekend is my 2-year wedding anniversary with my wife. So my stream on Friday will be at 11 a.m. 11 a.m. And we'll do a brunch of mid-morning, early afternoon stream. And we could still do call-ins. I'll kind of leave that up to the chat. I think last time I did this, we just posted a link. We had a couple people pop up. If not, I'll have a bunch of stuff ready to go. And so tomorrow, 7 p.m. Central, Friday, 11 a.m.
And Birdman, I just wanted to say, I'm going to do a live on Friday. I was going to do it before your live because I didn't know, you know, I assumed you were doing your.
What time are you doing it at?
I was going to do it at 6 p.m. Eastern time.
Okay. 6 p.m. Eastern time. JJ will be live on his channel, JJ State of the Deep. I think the mods have been dropping that link throughout the live. So thank you to the mods for that. JJ, thank you to you. And to the Hive, I will see you tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Central. Cheers.
Good night, everybody. Thanks, Birdie.
Thanks, JJ. Bye.